All right, we're back. Dan Hunt here with Meraki Performance in the CatchMark SportsNet studio. I got my friend Dan Beckman here. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, glad to be here with you.
Yeah. So we are. This is the Heads or Tails podcast for those of you that are jumping on for the first time, where we really try to dive into both sides of the coin: the mindset, the individual mindset of athletes, things like that, and then the flip side of that is really the program development, the overall mentality. How do you line those things in overall just being a resource, a place where people can come get inputs that are different than other places, right? There's so many inputs in this world, of different things, different ways to think, a lot of distractions. And we want to be a place that we give you real strategies, we have real conversations, and you can take away things and strategies and thoughts that are performance enhancing, right? With Meraki Performance, we just want people to be at their best. We want them to unleash the greatness within. And so it's really our purpose to do whatever we can to be a catalyst for that. And so that's the Heads or Tails podcast. And I'm excited to have Dan here because, Dan, you've recently been elected and you're moving into the OK Conference commissioner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Exciting times, man.
The newly minted commissioner of the OK Conference.
Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's quite an honor.
Yeah. And Dan and I have been, Dan's actually been a mentor of mine over the last couple of years. Dan, you've known me since I was probably waist high, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen me grow up.
Yes, I have.
And, I just appreciate our friendship, the mentorship. And I think one of the things that I'm excited for the conference specifically is that you have a heart of service, right? Like, and I know you retiring from your position at principal, like conversations we've had, it's always been like, how can I be of service? And that heart and mindset, I know you're carrying into this role. And I'm just really excited for the athletic directors, the entire conference, the coaches, the athletes, because you're a person of service, man. And you are, I'm just excited to see your influence and leadership there.
Well, thanks. And my first time meeting with the principals group, it's amazing that, believe it or not, the turnover. 4 years ago, I stood in front of the OK principals when I was retiring as principal at Reese Bubber High School. And then when I came before them again this past April, only 12 heard me speak 4 years ago out of the 41.
Wow.
So when you think about the number of new principals, but what I shared with them right away was I said, for me, leadership is servanthood. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. And so when you think about leading people, you first have to have a servant's heart. How can you serve them with your skill sets? And mental preparedness. That's the way to look at it. If you're in search of a title, you're not in the right business. And so there's people, and I've seen it. So what's helped me along the way is I found ways to get around strong mentors and models of servanthood. And that's when leadership just found its way through into my professional life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we talk about greatness is within, and I've been reflecting a lot on this. I believe in human potential. I believe that when you direct your focus to things that enhance your performance, right, that you're able to be at your best. And I often talk about how greatness looks different for everybody. And some will be in athletics, but a lot of us will learn the disciplines and the focuses to bring that out in other areas of our life. And I don't know if this is just like being in the work that I've done now for a while. Maybe it's being a father now, but there's just this strong this experience that the more that I serve, the more that I put myself in position to be of service of other people with no other purpose, but to be of service of other people, I become a better version of myself. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, is that what you mean by that servanthood?
Yeah, I do. I think when you look at giving of yourself, you're giving back to yourself as well.
Okay.
And so the more when I think about serving other people, I think a big piece to your personal growth is self-reflection. How did you use the minutes of the day? And to what good were you to others around you? So when you start to develop that sense of purpose for your life, what does it look like? Even self-improvement starts with helping other people, because as you do that, you give of yourself, you're learning more about social interaction and the way to connect with other people. And if you're looking to improve someone's day, it certainly will improve your own. There's been a lot of research around kindness, in that when you think about serotonin levels being released, the more kindness you demonstrate, it is not only releasing serotonin in the people that you are serving, but yourself as well.
Yep.
And so when you do those things, you have a feeling of goodness wash over you, that you're doing something for someone else.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's self-improvement along the way.
Yeah. I was reading, I think it was Ethan Cross's book, Shift, all around emotions and stuff. And he highlights something similar, that when we have these pro-social interactions and we're doing things, we're caring for others, that it is beneficial to us. Like there is that biochemistry that shifts, but then there's also the confidence within that group that, you know what, somebody else will do this for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you think of groups of people coming together and being more and more cohesive, right? Like there is that service and care of each other.
When you think about, and it came relatively recent, paying it forward.
Okay, yeah.
You know, all of a sudden you come up to the counter at McDonald's and they say, oh, the guy behind, he hooked you up. You're all taken care of. And how that made you feel.
Yeah.
But when that whole idea of paying it forward, what can you do to benefit someone else? And when you start to do those things, and it creates a mental model on, this is what, there is a calling for me in doing this. And as you do that, people will see that. See, when I also learned about when kindness is spread, observers of the kindness, indirect observers, not even benefiting from the kindness demonstrated by someone, also has a positive effect physiologically. And so when people see others doing good, they in turn have a greater desire to reach out and serve other people. And so, you know, when I think about this new role with the OK Conference, I mentioned to him right away, I said, I understand this role quite well. As a principal, I was a member of the OK Conference for 20 years. And I served as president of the conference in 2010. So understanding the role of the commissioner to not only interpret, but, you know, kind of mend the fences at times, but also guardrail those fences on making sure that the Constitution and its bylaws are followed by all of the schools. But I'll do that from a servant's mindset. And what is it that I can help you with to build greater relationship and a deeper understanding of what we can do as a conference together? And so learning more about people every year. I look forward to meeting these 41 new athletic directors. I've met them all one time, but I want to know their heart. I want to find out, and I have plans and intentions to do that very thing.
Yeah, that's great. And I know MHSAA has been, I believe it's MSSAA, has been doing a lot of work with like mentorship with ADs, because they see that turnover a lot too. You know what I mean? And when you think of programs that are able to be established, and I've been talking to a lot of athletic departments about looking at it as an organization. Your athletic department's an organization, your teams are departments. So how do you create that overall organization philosophy, right? Aligning athletes and development of coaches and things like that towards that, and then giving the autonomy to each department team, because there's nuances in there, right? But that takes time. That takes time of having individuals in those seats leading over probably multiple years, 3-4 years, to really get that program or that overall philosophy and culture shifted and moving in a direction.
You know, and to make that happen, there's time investment to build the trust. Because as you give the departments, you're also empowering them with that decision making. And that moment doesn't come until there's an established level of trust where you know that you can safely, and I mean that not so much physical, but more emotionally, that you can empower them, because that trust in that relationship, you know what limits they can take on. And by doing that, you're going to build capacity with them. But all the while, as you mentioned, the mentorship is so critically important. We're going to build capacity with new administrator orientations coming up July 31st. So we'll have new athletic directors, and we're going to be looking to have someone walk alongside them so that they can be that 3 a.m. friend. Hey, dude, you can call me at 3 a.m. I'm picking up the phone for you. And how do we build that? So then when you have those mentors, you're already empowering them to be a servant to somebody else already.
Yeah.
And they will build a greater capacity in their own knowledge if they're going to, hey, help me to understand bylaw number 2 again. Well, that mentor's going to have to make sure that their pencil's sharpened.
Yeah,
And
no doubt.
that saw is every tooth is sharpened so that when they're giving information in an accurate manner.
Yeah.
And so it works both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that you talk about capacity. And I think it just comes back to the overall mindset and intent going into it, right? To be that servant, to help create that capacity for people and things like that. Because I think those, and I know safe, like people are like, oh, well, what are we trying to do? This is athletics, you know, and it's tough. You got to be tough. But the reality is that if you don't create those spaces where people can show the cracks, they're never fixed. They're just hidden. And people are spending so much time and energy, mental capacity to hide those cracks that if we really want people to be in those positions long term, we got to help them when they trip, get back up. We got to point out the areas. We got to give them space, though, to make those mistakes. And I think there's a lot of pressure from the outside, right? That it's like, oh, man, I'm just done. I can't do it, right? And so having those spaces and those mentorships, I think, is going to be critical. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it from an organizational standpoint, the vision or mission that you have has to be very clear. It has to be very intentional. So the people that you are hoping to empower have a very clear understanding of what your mission or vision is for that organization. So as you mentor them to carry that out to other people, they know the parameters with which they need to lead from. In some cases, it's a coach. Some cases, it's an athletic director, secretary.
Right.
But there's so many important and critical components to every organization, and to have leaders know full well from the beginning the importance of clearly stating, then modeling the mission, so that when they empower their constituents, there's a very similar carry out with the workload because it's clear.
Yep. And I think that it's knowing that it's clear, like having the clarity, being focused on that also allows you to not listen to the noise outside of it.
Exactly.
Right? It allows you to have confidence in the decisions you're making are based on these things that we know are true, that we know are higher aiming, that we know are aligning in what we need to be doing. And so it doesn't make it easy. It makes it easier to tune out the distractions in the outside and go, but that's not why we function.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it helps with the prioritization of what strategies you're going to put into play.
Yeah.
And as you do that, that prioritization will limit the level of distraction because that's no longer a focus. I'm not saying it's going to go away,
Right.
but you have an understanding of where you need to go. And in the long run, and a lot of people are short-sighted, especially in athletics.
Yeah. Yeah.
They may not see it, but then it's incumbent upon the leaders and the constituents in the organization. So if it's an athletic director and a coach, so leader, constituents, the coaches, part of the team, okay? What they're looking to carry out, it has to have a high level of clarity so that what is expected of them, one, they feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
If they don't, they know that relationship that's been established, they can go back to without any fear of retribution because it's all about us getting better.
Sure.
And so what does that look like? I think that's some of the components of a servanthood-led organization.
Yeah.
And it's very empowering, and the joy that comes with it is it grows exponentially.
Doesn't it?
Is what it does. You know, people gauge things oftentimes in wins and losses.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's a reality in
That
the
is.
OK Conference. You know, there's not very many school systems that are going to keep a coach if he's gone 5 seasons 0-9.
100%.
That there's some flaw
Yep.
there, and so how do we coach through that? But there is a lot more to. I'll give you a quick example.
Yeah.
One of the focuses that we're going to have is sportsmanship.
Love it.
Through the OK Conference. So what's the clarity around sportsmanship? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Does that mean, well, I tell you what, we're just going to make sure that our coaches don't cuss? Okay. Is there any more depth to what you understand sportsmanship to be?
Yep.
Because you know what's going to happen? 95% of the athletes that compete in the OK Conference, their athletic careers end after they graduate and get their diploma.
Yeah.
What are they taking away from it?
100%.
What are the lessons? And so what I love to hear are, when you think about name a significant person in your life, most often they'll name a parent, a teacher, or a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you think about it, coaches are teachers.
Yep.
They're teaching a sport, and you think about the value and the esteem placed on those people from those young, impressionable minds. And so how do we promote sportsmanship? And then how do we talk about what are those priorities within it so that we're building this framework, again, going back to capacity? How do you unleash the greatness within you in your work life, in your wedded life, in your parenting life? Because those all are things you've experienced, going from a college tennis program to being a father, running a business, those types of things. You carry some of those high values that meant a lot to you. So I'm seeing that in my role. How do we build capacity with the athletic directors, with the principals? I see myself facilitating their learning, and then that being put out into the communities in 41 school communities. That's a lot.
That is, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, it's the saying that the classroom, athletics is the extension of the classroom, and I think that it's really easy for us to lose sight of that. It's very easy for us because seeing the wins and losses is very clear, but there's also a lot of wins behind the scenes. And yes, we need, you need effective coaches. You want to get those results. You don't stay in business if you're not making money, right? Like, you need to keep the doors open. But there are levels of intangible things that have ripple effects for years, if not in some cases generations. Like for tennis, for me, was my grandfather. And I don't know. I don't know if my family has. If they were as impacted as I was, it could have been just his passing. I was very impressionable at 15, 16 years old. But like, there's things that I deeply remember that still shape the way that I do things day in and day out. And he's the one that introduced me to tennis, and it's those types of things that I know are being instilled in my kids, and more than likely will be instilled in my grandkids and maybe even the next generation. You know what I mean? And it was that person that was in that position of influence. In athletics, coaches are in those positions all the time.
Right. When you think about what builds those relationships, we've talked about trust, and for somebody to say that I believe in you with a level of genuineness that is received builds so much into a relationship and the self-worth of an athlete, a student. And so when we think about how important it is to have coaches, constituents, mentors understand the need to not just vocalize that, but demonstrate it in their actions when they're in front of them, when they're doing things behind the scenes, all to their benefit because of that strong belief in this individual, not just as an athlete, but as a person who's going to make an impact.
Right.
And for them to hear that from someone significant in your life, and for me, what it's going to be coaches.
Right,
So I'm not going to have the impact at the coach level. I will have an impact at the athletic director level and the principal's level, and in some cases, the superintendent's level. But when we start to think about what that looks like and help them to understand this role they play is so significant in the lives of so many people, it is something that I would want them to not look at as a burden.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, you're throwing this all on me. I'm not. No, what an opportunity that you have. It's not a get to. It's a it's a have to. No, it's a get to.
Yeah, and I wonder too if they're talking about spaces, but to say the reality at sometimes, like, as a young coach, you want that win for your validation. You want that win for you. You want that, like, look what I did. I remember that, and to know that that's a crack in the bowl that we need to be able to identify. And it's not like you're going to instantly change that, but that there's space to have those conversations, and in the reality that you're going to arrive at the end of yourself really quickly.
And it does happen pretty quick. I think when you mentioned the crack in the bowl, it doesn't take one long you're talking about a personality where it's all about them. And when it's all about you, your tenure will be short because it doesn't take long for people to really see through who you really are and who you really represent.
And those kids to feel that too.
They do. Yep. They do. They can, kids can pick a fake really quickly. And a lot of that's the investment that they're making in them from the coach and how they create their practices, how they act in games, wins and losses. What does the teachable moments, what does that look like?
The incongruency of, you say you believe in me, but when I make the mistake, the only thing you do is demean me. Right? And when they see that incongruency, they're just like, I can't trust that. What is that?
And especially when it's put in a public arena. It's one thing you get yelled at by your coach in a gym with 11 other players.
Right.
It's another when you get yelled at in front of 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And they do take notice to that.
Yeah.
And then you go right back to, how are we talking about sportsmanship? What does that look like? Teachable moments. How do we do that? What's the right way to do it? Where are we self-reflecting on, could we have done a better job? How did we handle that interaction?
Yeah. What do you think that has shifted in terms of the ability to build trust, the ability to for kids to just take what coaches say, right? Like, do you think that has shifted over the years where it's maybe not just the default?
Here's how, when I think about how it's changed over my life, being 66 years old, I've seen a lot of things change over time. When I played in high school, I had a coach, and then I played summer ball, but I didn't have coaches. I didn't go to elite camps. I didn't have the pressures. When I became a coach, I ran my own summer camps.
Right.
But I didn't have kids playing at elites, and the pressures where parents, they spend a lot of money going and sending their kids to elite camps, and the pressure is applied to them. Hey, 3 of our 8 kids have gone to summer camp. That should be at least 12 wins, and they should be playing every minute of every game. These pressures that are coming outside to play and to perform. And I think coaches from the older days long for when you had summer off, where kids could take a break and go on family vacations. It's not like that anymore. Football is a 12-month job for these high school coaches, because that expectation is you got summer weight, you got spring weight training, you got summer 7s-on-7, you've got football camps, you've got clinics, things like that. There's a lot more pressure applied to kids and programs than there was in the past. And you see that where you don't see kids playing on playgrounds anymore.
There's
in summertime.
And there's this level of, if you want to keep up, you have to do it, because if you don't do it, you fall behind. And I think even with the travel ball and stuff, there's a level of whether it's explicit or not, kids know, like, mom and dad are paying a lot of money here. And that becomes pressure. And the thing you highlighted, I've never thought of it this way, but when you think of performance, our greatest performance needs clarity. We obviously need the skill, and I would say most kids have desire, right? They want to be great at whatever they're doing. But the thing that I've never thought about was how, when you said coaches, right? I got the swing coach, I got the strength coach, I have this coach, I have my high school coach, I have this travel ball coach, I have that, and it's like, whose voice are you listening to now? Because all those voices are creating that internal self-talk, especially when they're in it, whether kids acknowledge that self-talk or not. That's what's driving the self-talk. And then you throw parents in there as well. It's like, who do I listen to?
Right. And you used a word earlier, incongruency. The kids don't, they think swing coach. Well, my coach in high school told me this is what I need to do. I need to shorten up the step. I need to get into the swing zone quick. And my swing coach on my elite team is telling me something different. Who do I believe?
Right.
We went back to, it's another, who am I supposed to believe in, which goes to trust. Who's got my best interests in this? But there's so many different players for the player that I've seen have a significant change over time. I've also seen this where my son played 3 sports, play football, basketball, and baseball. You're starting to hear about more focus on a single sport.
Right.
And kids aren't playing. Smaller schools, you are. You go to Catholic Central, they're expecting you to play all 3
you
sports.
have to.
Maybe 4. Can you do 4? Can you throw a baseball and then quick throw the javelin? I don't know.
Right.
But it's going at the larger schools. The kids are focusing more on 1, maybe 2 sports, but that 3-sport athlete is not a high percentage any longer. Not that I think there was over time. Most of my friends, we just all played 3 sports. We were a Class B school, and that's just what you did.
Yep.
Kept you busy.
Yep.
Now there's this focus more on elite because they're running clinics, they're running summer stuff. You just can't do it all.
Yeah.
And so pick a favorite.
Yeah. And I'm old school in the way of just how do you build community? I believe greatness happens within community and relationships, right? And how do you build that community? And I think it's unfortunate, but there's definitely a tug and a pull, because when, I get it from now having 3 boys, I get it from a parent perspective. When you're not able to have that community coach or that community coach keeps turning over, and there are other opportunities, and you have a child that's like, man, I really want to chase this down. It's really difficult to say no. We have one of the things that a boundary we've tried to create, and I realized this summer we violated it. We didn't follow it. Was we're never going to compete and train in multiple sports, right? Like you can go to a practice in the winter for baseball while you play basketball. No problem. You can do football indoor stuff while you play basketball. Where it's one practice and maybe a game. Like, okay. But you're not going to like compete in football, compete in basketball, compete in baseball, compete in this, and try to train it all. Like, we're not doing that because it's too much for kids. And there's very little development because you're just stretched so thin, And here we are, my kids have basketball camp this week and last week. They're one of them's doing baseball, right? He's got football camp this week, and football season's coming up, and I'm going, wait a second. Like this, and you see him and he's like, I'm overwhelmed, And we've been doing jujitsu, and I'm like, hey, we're gonna miss this week. Like, wait a second. So I'm putting pressure, like, yo, we got to go to that. And I'm like, no, that's the 4th thing. We can't do that.
Yeah, right.
But it's so easy because it's the things that they love to do.
Right.
And at least for my boys, I think a lot of kids, and it's easy to just go, oh yeah, that's another opportunity. Oh, that's another opportunity, and not really pause and evaluate and say, wait a second, what are we doing here? Like, is there really development happening, or is this just keeping them busy? I don't know.
Yeah, and that when you look at that, you use the word evaluate.
Yeah.
And that's synonymous with reflection. You're looking back at this, you're reflecting, what is the value of what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
You mentioned about some of the things that kids have to deal with. When I think about in programs, we can control the narrative from this vantage point. We can control the communication. We have less control on the consistency. Example, what you said a little bit ago is we have transiency with coaches. Coach, I'm done. I didn't like it. Varsity volleyball coach, now I got to get another one. I think we had 4 different volleyball coaches in 6 years. And the kids are to try, what is the philosophy of this new coach? From an athletic director's perspective, he can control, or she can control, the communication on this is how we do business here.
Absolutely.
This is how we treat our athletes. So it does not matter the sport, the communication, if it's sportsmanship, training, parent conversations, we can control that. That consistency, I used to see this. There were coaches in the Muskegon and Grand Rapids areas that were coaching for 20 years. Look north, Shelby. Rick Zulik coached for 38 years. Brian Wright is still coaching baseball up there, 40 years. That community has experienced consistency, and with that consistency, they've had the same communication in those specific sports. That is rare today. So how do we focus our communications on what is our mission, our vision? What are those non-negotiables that we are going to stand firm on? And there will be no distraction on that. So if we can't, or we have a lesser control of the consistency on who's coaching, certainly want to keep them in the fold.
Absolutely.
And the longer we have consistent coaching from varsity through the freshman programming, you're going to see kids understand and have repetition, and that repetition does make things more permanent. Not perfect, but they know what those expectations are, and they work toward those over time. What happens then is you see a level of success. And sometimes that success isn't in wins and losses. The kids go, my tears came from it's over. I'm sad. I wish I had another month of practice and things like that. That's where you look and you can reflect back on you as a leader on how did you do? The reflections on, was the mission clear? Did I model it? Did I mentor them? Did I provide assistance through a 3 a.m. friend, which could be another coach? What does that look like?
Yeah, and I had a conversation with an AD, and he, because he's evaluating, and he said, what was really apparent to me, and that we need to double down on some things, and he said, and he had a plan. It was like, super proud of him, and he was like, I went to graduation, and I looked, and kids were not taking pictures with each other. Athletes were not taking pictures with each other. Athletes were not hugging. Like people were distant. And he goes, that can't happen anymore. And here's what we're going to do about it. It's like, great. You know what I mean? And I love, because I think from an athletic position too, an athletic director, now hiring becomes easier. Do you align with this philosophy? Do you align with these values? Do you align with this overall organizational higher aim? Because this is who we are here, right? Do you align with that? And then for the kids, to your point, especially when it comes to character, I hear it a lot. Kids just, the character, and people talk about, we talked about it on the podcast, like it's there or it's not. It's like, no. If your philosophy is we stand for these things and you start talking about it at 7th grade, now that kid has a focus of what sportsmanship looks like based on your definition, what hard work looks like based on your definition, what selflessness looks like based on your definition, whatever it is that you believe is important and is a fabric of your organization or your athletic programs. And now as they focus on that and you have conversations on that and you evaluate on it and you find the wins in that, now all of a sudden they become that. And you go, hey, man, we got selfless kids, man. Oh, man, they work so hard. Oh, my gosh, the sportsmanship of these kids. And now they're like, that's how you build character. A lot of times it's, they even haven't, no, it's the focus, it's the conversation, it's the development of that. It's the almost creating pathways for that, Yeah.
And, and I think it goes back to how do you envelop them into the process? So when they say, I remember seeing this little quip, it was character counts. Okay. What does that mean? Help me to understand when you say it counts. So what have you done to develop a thorough response to the definition or description of character?
Right.
So, when I think about ways to get the athletic directors on August 12th are going to take them through a process loop on, it's our expansion year in the OK Conference. We're going to make a decision if we want to expand. We're at 41 schools. We have a couple schools that have applied for interest and acceptance into the OK Conference. One of the things I want to ask them is this: are we currently serving our member schools well?
Yeah.
But I also want to have them, the process loop for them is going to be formulate questions that should be answered, because that's going to take them to a deeper level. There's some that will I'm certain, want to vent about the current conditions, because at some point, everyone has a vent option.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more about formulating the questions, and that'll take them to a deeper level. And I'm not interested in answers right now. I'm interested in the questions.
Yeah.
What are they? Because then by taking and collating those questions and then prioritizing or assimilating similar questions, we're going to put that right back out to them. That's going to help determine whether or not we need to expand, what would be the benefit of it.
Yeah.
We need to know first, where are we with all of our current members?
Right.
So that I bring that up because that's something that can happen at the athletic director's level when they start looking at programming.
Yeah.
And are we all, the questions, if we say we have a strong and successful athletic program, okay, let's formulate questions that got us to the answers that we say we are confident in that.
Yeah.
And the same goes for those that are challenging. some schools can probably say, oh, we're really good in football, basketball, but I tell you what, our golf team stinks.
Right.
Okay. Let's go back to vision.
Yeah.
And are we doing all those things? What level?
Right.
What's our communication? Because some of those programs are revolving door. It's hard to keep them.
Yep. Yeah. What's the alignment to the vision? And
Well,
yeah.
And how's it being carried out?
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
important.
What are the actions? What are the different things? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be it's a new development, you being in this position, but as you've accepted and taken this on and looking ahead, what would be your hope because you're somebody that I see as always doing everything you can to be of service and leaving the place better.
Yeah.
Right? What would be that hope? What
my hope would be this, because I've given thought to that each member school can understand fully and then actionalize the thought of being something greater than just their school. You've heard before, we are all greater than ourselves.
Yep.
How do we're a part of something greater than ourselves. What can we do to make this conference better, not just my local district?
Yep.
And I think some ties to that, because right now, when you think about, well, what does the OK commissioner do? It's really all about sports, isn't it? Yeah. Well, we used to have debate. We used to have forensics. The OK Black Division is going to put on a sportsmanship summit, a leadership summit. I'm actually going to be the keynote for that. And I'm looking forward to getting to know those kids better. It's going to be like 200 kids. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
But when I think about something that we could do that's outside of athletics, and this is the first time I'm voicing this outside of giving it to my assistant.
Sure.
I want to take the first week and of the month of November. The goal is going to be, let's make it audacious. And some might not think audacious, but let's generate 50,000 food items in our local pantries.
How do we be service?
So 41 schools, can we give of ourselves and say the OK Conference donated over 50,000 food items and list the pantries and get it out there. Then have a reflection. How did that make you feel when you first thought about it? So that they get an understanding of being a member of something outside of being on the tennis team or the hockey team or the wrestling team or being in the OK Gold or the white or the black or the red division. We came together. I didn't even know a kid from Kelloggsville. Now I do.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? And we can engage their student councils, their student senates. So this is a conference thing that is not a competition who can bring in the most. It's a conglomerate of 41 schools giving because there's always the need.
Yep.
I've never had a pantry say, hey, no, can't take any more food.
Right.
Nope, can't. I'm sorry. We're packed to the gills. It's never the case. You go over there and they've got 3 out of 4 shelves are empty.
Yep.
And so can we do that? Yes, we can. And so that's part of that reflection too, is we are a caring conference. We can do things like this. And is there learning from that? Yeah. And we can even take that into the sports mentality about what are you doing? What are you doing, senior varsity baseball player, to help that little freshman that's having a hard time even getting in the stance, digging in? Can you give them a half hour?
Right.
What does that look like? How do we mentor those younger athletes and not have someone say, hey, listen, if you do that, I'll count that as service hours for your National Honor Society. No, let's just give out of benevolence. Let's just be altruistic in our thinking. We're just giving to the benefit of other people.
Right.
And,
there's no strings attached.
None.
Yep.
Zero.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think will help connect. And that's something I want to see. But if people see that being a member of this conference has value beyond just the competitions, I think they will all be better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that I believe it'll impact your teams and in the competition as well. You're gonna as we talk about capacity, serving others, like that's giving back, that's gonna increase capacity. And it's helping with leadership development in that pathway and in each individual developing. And I love the reflection of, and I think that's something that is missing deeply in athletics, is there's the only reflection is it's one dimensional. Did we win or lose? Did I get the stats? And there's so many other pieces to that reflection. Like last night, my middle one came back from basketball camp and he's like, played terrible, missed every shot. Like, oh, hold on a second, and you got to let him blow the emotions out, and we get to a place I go, okay, so what went well? And we started talking. Well, nothing. No. What went well, man? Even though you missed, did you keep coming back for more? Did you keep trying hard? Did you keep your head up? Did you keep eye contact? Did you keep listening? Like, those are wins, man. That might be the wins today, and we want to keep elevating those, but that might have been wins today, And then we said, what didn't go well? Well, there's a list of those things, And then we started saying, okay, what are the actions? Because I can spiral and ruminate, but what are the actions I can drive forward, and how do I keep developing? And I love the reflection of, like, how did that make you feel, right? What did you see on their face? There was a study that I was reading, research study that actually took people, and it said, they randomized it and said, you get $5 for yourself to some people, or you get $5 to give to other people. And they evaluated like, how do you feel at the end of this? And the people that gave, even though it was like they gave it to somebody else, it was, either bought a coffee or did something for somebody, felt way better, felt way better. And it's the same thing.
Yeah. Let me go back to what you said, because it's so important that I want to make sure you see the true value in what you said. Yeah. When you take your son and you say, how did it go well? What went well? Here's what you did. And you allowed the question to be put into the conversation. It wasn't you saying, let me tell you what I thought.
Yeah.
And we have an issue with, I think, parents. There's probably some that, if they hear this, may have a level of conviction, because when they bring in their 10-year-old, the first thing they say is, you didn't run that girl down. You didn't get that takeaway. Why didn't you do it? Now comes a question.
Yeah.
And then
on defense. Now the kid's on defense.
Well, yeah. I mean, now what do you think their self-esteem? Where's their self-worth? If we ask those questions first, how'd you feel about your performance? How did you feel about your team? Tell me something that brought a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Because there's ways to have constructive criticism, and I don't even like that word, but constructive conversation about having that person, the boy or girl, your son or daughter, really evaluate, reflect on what they did well, and it might be the opportunity, and say, so what, instead of saying what might have been a weakness in your performance, what might be an opportunity for growth? Yeah. And you think, that he's 8 years old. Don't underestimate the intelligence of a kid. They understand a question like that. And if it's posed in a way that still spins to the positive. I've never heard anybody say the word opportunity is such a negative word.
Yeah.
It's not at all.
Well,
so what might be?
Yeah.
And it's got to be spun really. It's not even spin. It's got to be asked in a way that it's inquisitive, and it's curiosity based by you, because you don't know what they're going to say.
Yeah. It's the possibilities of, it. And it's the language of it too. When you say you need something, that is a heavy word. Like but when you say I could, I would, I want to, I will, I did. Like now there's different emotions that play with that, and there's just difference in that, and so we've been intentional with words, but I appreciate you sharing that, because I'm very conscious of, there are certain things that I will drive home, because I want my son to have a strong identity of who he is and where that identity comes from, But then there's also times where he needs to question. He needs to wrestle in that, because that's where confidence comes from. It's not covering it all up. It's really saying, yeah, I wasn't great at this thing, and now here's the work I can do to put into it. And it's his words that he's saying. And now when I come in as a dad, I can support the actions. It's not my actions I'm telling him. It's his actions he identified, and now I'm holding him accountable to that.
Right.
And that's a totally different interaction.
Right. Stephen Covey would say, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think there's value in that, without a doubt. I would say, let's hesitate on the back end of that. Seek first to understand. Then process questions, because from the standpoint of, if you say then to be understood, that implies that you're going to tell, you're going to inform, you're going to dictate.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's seek to understand through questioning, and then have a process with an 8-year-old. What do you think you could do that would help you get better at that? You're not telling them a thing, but you can coach their response. And so when you think about how do we do that, and I think young coaches today, the pressure's on them, first-year varsity coaches. I think without a doubt, there's a lot of pressure to win.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of seeking to understand with coaches. What does that look like? And that goes to mentoring. I'm thinking now of the athletic director's role to understand the status mentally with their coaches. A lot of work.
Yep.
That's not evaluation.
Yeah.
That's mentoring, pure and simple mentoring and serving that coach.
Yep.
And those are the things that when you think about like an athletic director of a large school, they got 27 varsity sports.
Yeah.
And they've got clubs, and then they've got sub-varsity teams that all have coaches.
Yeah.
And then you think about how do you build capacity. That's where mentorship comes in.
Yep.
And empowerment, but making sure the people that you've established to be mentors have a clear understanding of what your expectations from a vision statement are, so that what's being conveyed and communicated and coached is the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think those are critical pieces to it.
Yeah, yeah. And as we kind of close things out, so Meraki, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but Meraki means to do something with such love, focus, and intention that you leave a piece of yourself behind, right? What would be the piece of you that you'd like to leave behind as you look back and you say, you know, here's the work that I've been able to do. Here's the service I was able to give. What do you think that would be?
I would hope they would say, you know, when I think of the word grace, I think of unmerited love.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't deserve it. It was given to you.
Yeah.
I guess what I would want them to when they hear my name or think of my involvement with them, that he just gave of himself to the benefit of other people. He was a benevolent man. That's how I would want to be remembered by people. That I used to always say in leadership, it ain't about you. It ain't about you. And if you have any issue with that, leadership is probably something that you're not going to really thoroughly enjoy. It'll be a job, not a way of life.
Yep.
And that's how I would probably leave it.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll say I can see that you live that way of life, and definitely somebody that is giving of themselves all the time. And I've appreciated our relationship and our conversations. It's always life-giving, and I'm glad you're able to come on here. I'm glad you're able to share your wisdom, and I'm excited for the OK Conference. I'm excited to see how you serve them and the impact that it's going to have. I'm just really excited for that. So thanks for jumping on today.
Glad you invited me.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.